master trick on creating these characters that just stick with us, like Woody and Buzz, like Dory, like these characters. How do they make these characters so rich and sticky?
Well, one of the main things for me that I find is all of their characters care so deeply about something. They all have something that without it, life is meaningless. Like one of the smartest decisions they made in developing Toy Story is saying, oh, there's nothing a toy wants more than to be played with. That premise is the engine for all of those films. And it seems natural to us, but you can imagine different ways to go about that. Like maybe this toy wants to be left alone. Maybe it's more about it's not natural. It's not an accident. It's a choice. And that choice drives all of the emotional journeys. Like when we cry in those movies, it's because we know how much getting played with means to Woody, means to Jesse, means to Lotso even. And they do it in all of their films, obviously Finding Nemo, Up, the connection to the house, Joy in that opening, right, where you see how Riley's mind develops. Joy says, it's my job in life to keep this girl happy. When this girl isn't happy, I, as a person, am failing, And they do, I think a lot of times when people develop a story, they find what the character wants or they find a problem the character have, but they don't necessarily set up why it's so important to them or how deeply it's ingrained into their identity. Pixar's characters cannot live without the things Pixar then takes away from them.
Right. So like Wall-E, his whole existence is about cleaning, putting things away, organizing, and doing.
Also, one of the first things we see him do, right? He's cleaning all those things. He's alone on the planet. He has this one friend that's a cockroach that sort of goes along with him. And then he goes home, and what does he do? He watches a video from Hello Dolly. Right. And there's that close-up, if you remember, that close-up of his hands touching each other.
Yes,
like
yes.
The couple does in the movie. And that's what he wants. And then Eve shows up, and you're like, oh, my God, this is his chance. When is another robot going to be there? He can't fuck this up, He can't screw this up. I don't know what your eyes
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
And that, and think about what's working here. A robot watching a scene from an old musical, but it shows you how much he yearns for love.
Right.
And that's what they do, whether it's Remy risking his life to get a spice from an old woman's house, right? Because he has to make something that's artful. They set these things that these characters can't live without.
Yeah, and going down the line, almost every Pixar movie that I can think of, there is something that the main character cannot live without. You're right, from Ratatouille wanting to cook to Finding Nemo, to Wall-E wanting love. It just you start going. This is what's wonderful about this conversation, is because every time we're talking about a new concept, then I go back as we're talking. I'm going back in my back of my head is going, Cars, got it, and you just start going, checking off like, yep, they did it there, yeah, they did it there, yeah, they did it there, and it's fascinating to see. But that need, I mean, it's kind of like Disney with Pinocchio, like you feel that Pinocchio wants to be a real boy. That's the power of that, especially when he goes off to that crazy island and starts smoking and drinking and all that kind of crazy. It was a different time. It was crazier times.
Yeah.
But that wanting for a character is so powerful. And I've never really thought about it that way. You're absolutely right. You never think of, you start thinking going back to, if you start going back to some of the most successful films and characters of all time, Luke Skywalker wants to get off the planet. He wants to be a starfighter, and you start going back to all these famous movies. All the main characters have this amazing, powerful need that if I can't get this, it's not, my world is over. Even Tootsie,
It's so funny. I was thinking about Tootsie like before we started talking. I was thinking about, and this sort of relates to your question about character, because what Tootsie does amazingly well, which is very Pixar-ish, is how every character in it is a reflection of the theme and brings out some side of the lead. Like if you're talking about men, women, so you have, the director and the actor sort of are, harassers and look down on women. You have that one female boss. You have his roommate who's sort of more about his artistic side that he's neglecting. And Pixar does that too. Think about Incredibles, right?
Right.
Every family member has, they cannot agree about what being a superhero is. None of them. So that's another good trick that Pixar often does.
Which is what? Say that. Can you explain that?
Every character has a different point of view. Every character has a different role, a different function. Every character has a different reflection of the theme. If you think about Remy and Linguini, they're opposites. Linguini has the heritage and the opportunity, but no talent. Remy
He's a rat.
Get sign, but has all the he's a rat. He has all the talent in the world. And then you have Gusteau and Ego, who are polar opposites. Like everyone is a different way in to the theme, to the character, to what we're talking about.
My favorite line in Ratatouille is like, "It was you that was getting funny with. Was it you were getting funny with the spices?" It's just such the delivery of that line was so brilliant, man. I mean, people who are listening can't see that I literally have a smile because I'm constantly thinking of Pixar movies in my head, all the way down, and just thinking about the good times that you have watching those films. It's pretty remarkable. There's not any studio that I can think of that has that reaction. Even Disney itself, even Star Wars films don't all hit exactly the right place. Marvel is close, but even Marvel is not, you will never get what you got at the end of Marvel Avengers Endgame. Like that, it took 10 years to get there. I mean, it took 10 years to get to that specific 30 minutes of film. But Pixar hits that every time. Almost every time they're hitting that.